In the last video, we saw that one of the major determinants of how much torque a muscle is going to produce about a certain joint is what its moment arm is. We saw that in this case, the biceps, long head of the biceps brachii, it has a moment arm that is like this distance. So it's that physical distance that you could measure with a ruler. Again, notice it's not vertical, it's going perpendicular off the direction that the muscle is pulling at this point. And we said that if the biceps is producing, say, 600 newtons of force, and that moment arm is 0.01 meters, then you'd multiply those two together, and it would give you a torque of 6 Newton meters. Now, what I want to show you is what happens when the body changes configuration. So I'm going to show you the moment arm of the muscle, well, I'm going to show you the elbow extended. And while I do that, I want you to imagine what's going to happen to that moment arm, that distance from the center of the elbow joint to the muscle force when we go into almost full extension of the elbow joint. So I'll go back and forth and compare these. And notice what happens. The moment arm gets much shorter. So whereas before, before the moment arm was like this distance, and then after, now it's much shorter. Now, not only is it shorter, notice also the orientation changes a little bit. So it's going to go off like this because it needs to be perpendicular to this direction instead of the previous direction, which I think was more like that. And the distance is smaller. So even if the muscles produce the same amount of force, which maybe caveat to that, they probably would not be able to because not only has the moment arm changed, the length of the muscle has changed as well. But even if it was the same, it might be, maybe that's only 0.005 now, and that would be 3 Newton meters. So even if you could produce the same amount of force, the same amount of force would yield a smaller torque. And of course, what we saw in previous videos this week is that the muscle can't produce as much force. I think we saw it only produced like maybe 250 or 300 newtons. So the force went down as well and remember that's because the muscle fibers got too long. They got longer than their optimal fiber length. So that would decrease it even more to, I guess that would be 1.5. So this gives us some important insights into one additional thing we need to consider when we're thinking about actual motion of the body. But, and here's the final tricky thing for the week, it's not just the moment arm of the muscle that changes, it's also the moment arm of the force, or of whatever force you're working against. So let me redraw this with the elbow flexed. And let's say you have a dumbbell in your hand, okay? So dumbbell, and then we said there's gravity is acting on that dumbbell, and let's say it's maybe we'll maybe mix and match our units here, but let's say it's a 25-pound dumbbell, and this distance is 1 foot. So that equals 25 foot-pounds of torque. What's going to happen if we extend the elbow? Well, I guess I'm going to overlap my writing is what's going to happen. Now the dumbbell is out here. As a reminder, we're going to need this torque equals force times the moment arm formula. And so gravity is going to act on the weight of the dumbbell and pull it down. Clearly, the weight of the dumbbell doesn't change, right? It's still 25 pounds. So this was 25 pounds. This was 25 pounds. But now the moment arm is not this anymore. It's this. Technically, if you wanted to, really it's that distance. But maybe that's, I don't know, 1.5 feet. So now the torque would turn into 25 times 1.5, which is, I think, what, 37.5. So the torque acting in this direction to extend the elbow is going to get bigger. There's one more variant of this that we can think about, which will underscore the degree to which this stuff is not obvious, and you have to really think about it carefully. And let me redraw this same bicep curl, but I'm going to redraw it maybe the way you might do bicep curls when you are at the gym. So maybe I'll just do a little stick figure with elbow joint here, or shoulder joint here, upper arm, elbow joint, lower arm, and then dumbbell. And you're going to do a dumbbell curl. So right now, weight of the dumbbell and the moment arm, well, if we did it the official way, we would go trace the direction of the force in both directions and figure out what perpendicular place we can shoot off to intersect the joint, and it's going to be right here. So it's going to be that amount. But let's think about what happens when you do a dumbbell curl and you start flexing your elbow. Maybe you flex your elbow out to here. So now the dumbbell's out here, and the force is the same because the dumbbell weighs the same. But now the moment arm got longer, right? Now it's like that distance, because if we extend up and down the force and go perpendicular from the joint, well, now it's this. So here, at a higher degree of elbow flexion, the moment arm of the force that is acting against what we're trying to do, the moment arm of the barbell, got bigger, whereas here we saw it got smaller. So how do you make any sense of this? Well, you need to think very carefully about what is the direction of the forces that I'm encountering. With regards to any type of resistance from a dumbbell, a barbell, a kettlebell, any kind of weight, it's always important to keep in mind that is going to be a vertical force, no matter the configuration of your body, because however you're doing it, gravity always goes straight down. Whereas the moment arm of the muscles that are active in the activity, that was this business back here, that's going to depend not on gravity, but it's going to depend on the configuration of your body. So we might have one additional angle to examine our problem back here of force production during the simulated bicep curl. And what we'll be able to do in the next video is we'll look at the moment arm of the biceps brachii, the long head of the biceps brachii, as a function of elbow angle. And that will give us some further information about the mechanical advantage of the force of the biceps during this exercise.